The iconic Kruger National Park is set for quite a makeover. SANPARKS has announced a 370 million rand upgrade and refurbishment program. It'll take place over the next 3 years. Let's find out what the plans are. I'm sure there's many of them. Gareth Coleman, the managing executive at the park, joining us this morning. Hello to you, Gareth. And I've seen quite a few people reacting when the news came out about where this money is going to be spent. It looks like it's going to be spent at various camps around the park, but I think what most visitors seem to be the most happy about is it's going to be used as well to get the tar roads back up to the standards they used to be. Good morning. Where'd the money come from and how excited are you?
Morning, Gareth, and morning to the viewers. Yeah, excited. We're very, very happy, of course, because this is not necessary. Well, it's quite long overdue, but we have huge infrastructure challenges in the park, and every amount of funding that comes in helps us enormously. Most of the fundings come from the department itself. They have an infrastructure development program. That's the Department of Fishery, Forests, Environment, and they fund us over a 3-year period for infrastructure upgrades. But then we've also got some insurance payouts for the burnt-out shop at Lower Sabi and the burnt-out petrol station at Lower Sabi and the shop at Letaba. And then for the kind of new products which we're developing, the National Department of Tourism has chipped in some funds.
I see as well, for those who go to the park, I mean, I'm sure you'll agree with me, Gareth, that we often end up going to Skukuza first before heading off to anywhere else. I see the viewing deck as well also going to get a bit of a new lick of paint.
Yeah, you know, we live in a park, and unfortunately the termites don't really worry about humans and our human facilities that we've established. So both the viewing deck at Skukuza as well as the viewing deck at Olifants have been quite badly affected by termites. So it took us a bit by surprise, but yes, we've got to divert some funds there.
It must have been quite a tricky negotiation, Gareth. Take me into the boardroom as well off the back of COVID-19, devastating for the tourism sector, KNP badly hit as well. How difficult was it to convince the department to give you this money?
No, not very difficult. I mean, they do have an infrastructure development program. The challenge of the previous few years has been that with the lack of income, we've been cutting back on the infrastructure spending to cover some of our operating costs. But now all those funds have been released and are for our use in the areas where they're required, which is the infrastructure. I think there's a keen commitment from the department and government to ensure that our iconic facilities are upgraded and maintained up to the standard.
I think
you must understand.
Carry on, Gareth, carry on.
No, I mean, Kruger's an enormous park with regard to infrastructure. We have over 23 billion rands worth of infrastructure under our care and maintenance. We've estimated that we probably need in the region of 400 or 500 million rand a year just to keep that infrastructure maintained up to the levels that are required. So it's a huge ask, and in these days of fiscal constraint, I mean, it's most welcome relief.
I'm sure it's a very welcome relief. And unfortunately, Gareth, as you know, it's always wonderful when we talk about the Kruger Park, but it is a massive business as well, not just a tourist attraction. Let's talk about the staff very quickly. There have been issues in the past couple of years, haven't there, with staff complaining about their lack of upgraded accommodation. Are they getting any money, any better living quarters?
Look, we did a massive upgrade in the last, in the previous financial year of a number of staff accommodation units. The demand is enormous. We still have single rooms, which we are trying to eradicate as quickly as possible. We have managed in most of the main camps to convert all the compound type accommodation into single rooms with bathrooms and kitchens. So we have made a big dent in it, but the demand is enormous. I mean, our waiting list for people to move into new accommodation in terms of staff is well over 100. But yes, we have put some funding aside for staff accommodation upgrades.
I'm seeing someone tweeting me at Lloyd, tweeting me a moment ago, Gareth, if you don't mind me asking, a lot of money going to infrastructure and refurbishment. They want to know about rhino poaching. Any more money going to anti-rhino poaching efforts?
Well, the rhino poaching efforts obviously come from our own funding, our operational costs as SANPARKS, as well as from funds that we're able to raise. There is no additional money in terms of our budgets. We budget for it annually. Is it enough? We always need more. Can we do more? Of course we need to try and do more. But this particular section of funds is allocated for infrastructure development.
We're going to talk about the impact on the visitor experience in just a moment, Gareth, just what kind of effect we could have as far as tourists are concerned. But before I do that, if I can ask one more wildlife question, as I follow it so closely, elephant culling in the park, what was the plan around that? Is it ongoing?
No, we don't cull. We haven't culled for a number of years. I mean, I think it might be in our management plan that we haven't culled elephants for a very, very long period of time. It's not part of our active management strategy at all.
Okay, and then let's just turn our attention back to the facilities for a moment. There's a lot of work. I'm taking a look at the list of all the work you're going to be doing here. You mentioned Letaba, the shop and the fencing, the Lower Sabi petrol station. That's a big issue at Lower Sabi at the moment, isn't it? And as far as the impact on tourists, what's the plan around minimizing the impact? Are you going to go all in, get it done as quickly as possible, or are you going to work on a staged approach?
Well, as a stage approach for the overall upgrades across the park. So this is just the first set of projects that have been launched in this financial year. And as we've indicated, we will be making more announcements probably later in 2022 or early 2023 of the next phase. This is only an allocation of a portion of the funds. Yes, we want to go as quickly as possible. We are finalizing contracts with our contractors as we speak, and they will be held to the contracts which they have to complete in very, very clear, specific periods of time. Of course, we're in a rural area and contractors have their own sets of issues, and where there might be disputes and there might be issues around the rate and delivery and the quality of what they build, and that can always hold things up. But we'll be pushing them to get in and out as quickly as possible, and then try and minimize at least the visual impact for tourists on those particular sites.
And then, Gareth, just the last question before I let you go this morning as well. COVID-19 regulations lifted to some or other degree. Are you seeing an uptick in tourists coming in, especially the overseas tourists, because they bring the money, don't they?
Absolutely. I mean, their contribution to conservation fees in particular is a huge help to us. Yes, certainly we've seen increases, and if you go around the park out here, a lot of foreign languages being spoken and a lot of foreign visitors are coming. The OSVs are increasing in numbers in terms of trips into the park. If you look at particularly the curve, it's definitely a movement up at the moment. We're pretty confident that we're going to recover as planned, probably towards the early part of 2023 to reach our previous numbers.
And also don't forget, to those watching at the moment, K&P is not just a summer destination. I can assure you nothing more beautiful than a midwinter bush break. Gareth Coleman, always good to speak to you, Managing Executive at the Kruger National Park.